Effect of thought on circumstances. The human mind may be likened to a garden, which may be intelligently cultivated or allowed to run wild, but whether cultivated or neglected, it must and will bring forth. If no useful seeds are put into it, then an abundance of useless weed seeds will fall, accumulate, and reproduce their own kind. Just as the gardener cultivates the plot, keeping it free from weeds and cultivating the flowers and fruits which are required, so may we tend the garden of our mind, weeding out all the wrong, useless, and impure thoughts, and cultivating toward perfection the flowers and fruits of right, useful, and pure thoughts. By pursuing this process, we sooner or later discover that we are the master gardener of our souls, the director of our lives. This lesson also reveals within ourselves the laws of thought and enables us to understand with ever increasing accuracy how the thought forces and mind elements operate in the shaping of our character, circumstances, and destiny. Thought and character are one, and as character can manifest and discover itself only through environment and circumstance, the outer conditions of our life will always be found to be harmoniously related to our inner state. This does not mean that our circumstances at any given time are any indication of our entire character, but that those circumstances are so intimately connected with some vital thought element within ourselves that, for the time being, they are indispensable to our development. Each of us is where we are by the law of our being. The thoughts which we have built into our character have brought us there. In the arrangement of our life, there is no element of chance, but all is the result of a law which cannot err. This is just as true of those who feel out of harmony with their surroundings as of those who are contented with them. As progressive and evolving beings, we are where we are that we may learn, that we may grow. And as we learn the spiritual lesson which any circumstance contains for us, it passes away and gives place to other circumstances. We are buffeted by circumstances so long as we believe ourselves to be the creature of outside conditions. But when we realize that we are a creative power and that we may command the hidden soil and seeds of our being out of which circumstances arise, we then become the rightful masters of ourselves. That circumstances grow out of thought. Each of us who has for any length of time practiced self-control and self-purification knows, for we will have noticed that the alteration in our circumstances has been in exact ratio with our altered mental condition. So true is this, that when we earnestly apply ourselves to remedy the defects in our character and make swift and marked progress, we pass rapidly through a succession of vicissitudes. The soul attracts that which it secretly harbors, that which it loves, and also which it fears. It reaches the heights of its cherished aspirations. It falls to the level of its basest desires, and circumstances are the means by which the soul receives its own. Every thought seed sown or allowed to fall into the mind or take root there produces its own, blossoming sooner or later into action and bearing its own harvest of opportunity and circumstance. Good thoughts bear good fruit, bad thoughts, bad fruit. The outer world of circumstances shapes itself to the inner world of thought, and both pleasant and unpleasant external conditions are factors which make for the ultimate good of the individual. As the reaper of our own harvest, we learn both by suffering and bliss. Following the inmost desires, aspirations, thoughts by which we allow ourselves to be dominated, pursuing the frivolities of impure imaginings, or steadfastly walking the highway of strong and high endeavor, we at least arrive at their fruition and fulfillment in the outer conditions of our lives. The laws of growth and adjustment are naturally followed. One does not come to drunkenness or crime by the tyranny of fate or circumstance, but by the pathway of groveling thoughts and base desires. Nor does a pure minded person fall suddenly into crime by stress of any mere external force. The criminal thought had long been secretly fostered in his heart. and the hour of opportunity revealed its gathered power. No such conditions can exist as descending into vice and its attendant sufferings apart from vicious inclinations, or ascending into virtue and its pure happiness without the continued cultivation of virtuous aspirations. Therefore, as the Lord and Master of thoughts, we are the makers of ourselves, the shaper and author of our environment. Even at birth, the soul comes to its own, and through every step of its earthly pilgrimage, it attracts those combinations of conditions which reveal itself, which are the reflections of its own purity and impurity, its strength and weakness. We do not attract that which we want, but that which we are. Our whims, fancies, ambitions are thwarted at every step, but our inmost thoughts and desires are fed with our own food, be it foul or clean. The divinity that shapes our ends is in ourselves. It is our very self. We are manacled only by ourselves. Thought and action are the jailers of fate. They imprison, being base. They are also the angels of freedom. They liberate, being noble. Not what we wish and pray for do we get, but what we justly earn. Our wishes and prayers are gratified and answered only when when they harmonize with our thoughts and actions. In the light of truth, what then is the meaning of fighting against circumstances? It means that we are continually revolting against an effect without, while all the time we are nourishing and preserving its cause in our heart. That cause may take the form of a conscious vice or an unconscious weakness, but whatever it is, it stubbornly impedes the efforts of its possessor and hence calls aloud for remedy. All of us are anxious to improve our circumstances, but are unwilling to improve ourselves. We therefore remain bound. People who do not shrink from self crucifixion can never fail to accomplish the object upon which their hearts are set. This is true of earthly as of heavenly things. Even those whose sole object is to acquire wealth must be prepared to make great personal sacrifices before they can accomplish this object. And how much more so for those people who would realize a strong and well poised life? For example, let's look at a man who is wretchedly poor. He is extremely anxious that his surroundings and home comforts should be improved, yet all the time he shirks at his work and believes himself justified in trying to deceive his employer on the ground of the insufficiency of his wages. Such a man does not understand the simplest rudiments of these principles, which are the basis of true prosperity, and is not only totally unfitted to rise out of his wretchedness, but is actually attracting to himself a still deeper wretchedness by dwelling in and acting out indolent, deceptive, and negative thoughts. Now let's look at a rich woman who is the victim of a painful and persistent disease as a result of gluttony. She is willing to give large sums of money to get rid of it, but will not sacrifice her gluttonous desires. She wants to gratify her taste for rich and unnatural foods and have her health as well. Such a woman is totally unfit Such a woman is totally unfit to have health because she has not learned the first principles of a healthy life. Another example is an employer who adopts crooked measures to avoid paying the regulation wage and, in the hope of making larger profits, cuts the wages of his employees. Such a man is altogether unfitted for prosperity. When he finds himself bankrupt, both as regards to reputation and riches, he blames circumstances, not knowing that he is the sole author of his condition. I have introduced these three cases merely as illustrative of the truth that each person is the causer, though nearly always unconsciously, of his or her circumstances, and that, while perhaps aiming at a good end, that person is continually frustrating its accomplishment by encouraging thoughts and desires which cannot possibly harmonize with that end. Such cases could be multiplied and varied almost indefinitely, but this is not necessary, as you can trace the action of the laws of thought in your own mind and life, and until this is done, mere external facts cannot serve as a ground of reasoning. Circumstances, however, are so complicated, thought so deeply rooted, that the conditions of happiness vary so vastly. with individuals that a person's entire soul condition cannot be judged by another from the external aspects of his or her life alone. A person may be honest in certain directions, yet suffer privations. Privations. Another may be dishonest in certain directions, yet acquire wealth. The usual conclusion, however, is that the one person fails because of his or her particular honesty, and that the other prospers because of that person's particular dishonesty. This is the result of a superficial judgment which assumes that the dishonest person is almost totally corrupt and the honest one almost entirely virtuous. In the light of a deeper knowledge and wider experience, such judgment is found to be erroneous. The dishonest person may have some admirable virtues which the other does not possess, and the honest person obnoxious vices which are absent in the other. The honest person reaps the good results of honest thoughts and acts, but also is the cause of the sufferings which his or her vices produce. The dishonest person likewise garners suffering and happiness. It is pleasing to human vanity to believe that people suffer because of their virtues. But not until every sickly, bitter, and impure thought has been extirpated from their minds and every sinful stain washed from their souls can they be in a position to know and declare that the sufferings are the result of their good and not of their bad qualities. On the way, too, yet long before that supreme perfection has been reached, such people will have experienced the great law which is absolutely just and which cannot therefore give good for evil, evil for good. Possessed of such knowledge, they will then know, looking back upon their past ignorance and blindness, that each of their lives is and always was justly ordered, and that all their past experiences, good and bad, were the equitable outworking of this evolving yet unevolved self. Good thoughts and actions can never produce bad results. Bad thoughts and actions can never produce good results. This is but saying that nothing can come from corn but corn, nothing from nettles but nettles. We understand this law in the natural world and work with it, but few understand it in the mental and moral world, though its operation there is just as simple and undeviating, and they therefore do not cooperate with it. Suffering is always the effect of wrong thought in some direction. It is an indication that we are out of harmony with ourselves, with the law of life. The sole and supreme use of suffering is to purify, to burn out all that is useless and impure. Suffering ceases for those who are pure. There could be no object in burning gold after the dross has been removed, and a perfectly pure and enlightened being could not suffer. So there could be no object in burning gold after the dross is removed. So the dross is like the remnants or the leftover scrap metal. It's just like a side effect of purifying gold. There's dross, and a lot of, and when you melt metals, there's this like crispy side effect, like byproduct. It's like a crispy metal byproduct at the top of your melted pot of metal, and they call it dross. So that's got to get removed. And a perfectly pure and enlightened being could not suffer. So let me just. The circumstances we encounter with suffering are the result of our own lack of mental harmony. The circumstances we encounter with blessedness are the result of our own mental harmony. Blessedness, not material possessions, is the mirror of right thought. Wretchedness, not lack of material possessions, is the measure of wrong thought. We may be cursed and rich. We may be blessed and poor. Blessedness and riches are joined together only when the riches are rightly and wisely used. And the poor person descends into wretchedness only when his or her lot is regarded as a burden unjustly imposed. Indigence and indulgence are the two extremes of wretchedness. They are both equally unnatural and the result of mental disorder. We are not rightly conditioned until we are happy, healthy, and prosperous. Happiness, health, and prosperity are the result of a harmonious adjustment of the inner with the outer, of our relationship with our surroundings. We begin to mature to be mature adults only when we cease to whine and revile and commence to search for the hidden justice which regulates our lives. As we adapt our minds to that regulating factor, we cease to name others as the cause of our condition, but begin to build ourselves up in strong and noble thoughts. We cease to kick against circumstances, but begin to use them as aids to more rapid progress and as a means of discovering the hidden powers and possibilities within ourselves. Law, not confusion, is the dominating principle in the universe. Justice, not injustice, is the soul and substance of life. And righteousness, not corruption, is the molding and moving force in the spiritual government of the world. This being so, we must right ourselves to find that the universe is right, and during the process of putting ourselves right, we will find that our thoughts are altered toward things and other people will alter their thoughts toward us. The proof of this truth is in every person, and it therefore admits of easy investigation by systemic introspection and self-analysis. Let us radically alter our thoughts, and we will be astonished at the rapid transformation it will effect in the material conditions of our lives. We may imagine that thought can be kept secret, but it cannot. It rapidly crystallizes into habit, and habit solidifies into circumstance. Bestial thoughts crystallize into habits of intoxication and consumption, which solidify into circumstances of destitution and disease. Impure thoughts of every kind crystallize into enervating and confusing habits, which solidify into distracting and adverse circumstances. Thoughts of fear, doubt, and indecision crystallize into weak, soft, and irresolute habits, which solidify into circumstances of failure, indigence, and slavish dependence. Lazy thoughts crystallize into habits of unseemliness and dishonesty, which solidify into circumstances of foulness and beggary. Hateful and condemnatory thoughts crystallize into habits of accusation and violence, which solidify into circumstances of injury and persecution. Selfish thoughts of all kinds crystallize into habits of self seeking, which solidify into circumstances more or less distressing. On the other hand, beautiful thoughts of all kinds crystallize into habits of grace and kindliness, which solidify into genial and sunny circumstances. Pure thoughts crystallize into habits of temperance and self control, which solidify into circumstances of repose and peace. Thoughts of courage, self reliance, and decision crystallize into habits which solidify into circumstances of success, plenty, and freedom. Energetic thoughts crystallize into habits of cleanliness and industry, which solidify into circumstances of pleasantness. Gentle and forgiving thoughts crystallize into habits of gentleness, which solidify into protective and preservative circumstances. Loving and unselfish thoughts crystallize into habits of self forgetfulness for others, which solidify into circumstances of sure and abiding prosperity and true riches. A particular train of thought persisted in, whether it is good or bad, cannot fail to produce its results on the character and circumstances. We cannot directly choose our circumstances, but we can choose our thoughts, and so indirectly surely shape our circumstances. Nature helps us to the gratification of encouraging thoughts, and opportunities are presented which will most speedily bring to the surface both the good and evil thoughts. Let's reread that again. All right, what is this? Nature helps us to the gratification of encouraging thoughts, and opportunities are presented which will most speedily bring to the surface both the good and evil thoughts. Yeah, they're talking about nature. So nature helps. Yeah, nature is a whole beast in itself. So that's interesting with this book. I always get something new out of this book. It's written in like 1908. Okay, so they were talking a lot about how our thoughts and our perspective and our hearts are sort of, when you can train your thoughts, then you can create outward circumstances to appear in your life. You know, things materialize if you live a certain way. But then this paragraph here, this is interesting how it was just thrown in here. And it goes like this again. Nature helps us to the gratification of encouraging thoughts, and opportunities are presented which will most speedily bring to the surface both the good and evil thoughts. So they're talking about the essence of nature. Seriously. And if you want to talk about the essence of nature, that's something. And what they're saying, what he's saying here is true. It's like nature will bring to the surface both the good and the bad. So I think that's really cool. Nature helps us through the gratification of encouraging thoughts, and opportunities are presented which will most speedily bring to the surface both the good and evil thoughts. Very interesting. That's something that I sort of something a little read it in a new perspective. So, anyways, we'll continue on. Let us cease from our sinful thoughts, and all the world will soften toward us and be ready to help us. Put away weak and sickly thoughts, and opportunities will spring up on every hand to aid our strong resolves. Encourage good thoughts, and no hard fate will drag us down to wretchedness and shame. The world is our kaleidoscope, and the varying combinations of colors which at every succeeding moment it presents to us are the exquisitely adjusted pictures of our ever moving thoughts. Wow. And then here's by Ella Wheeler Wilcox, like a poem or something. So, you will be what you will to be. You will be what you will to be. Let failure find its false content in that poor world environment, but spirit scorns and is free. But spirit scorns it and is free. It masters time, it conquers space. It cows that boastful trickster chance, and bids the tyrant circumstance uncrown and fill a servant's place. The human will, that force unseen, the offspring of a deathless soul, can hew a way to any goal, though walls of granite intervene. Be not impatient in delay, but wait as one who understands. When spirit rises and commands, the gods are ready to obey, by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. And then the next section is effect of thought on health and body. Okay, and then at the end, I just have to. So the gods are ready to obey. Oh, okay. Well, if there is remember, okay, if there is Zeus, Odin, Kronos, Ra, gods, whatever, that was created for God by God. Ugh. So you just do the one God thing, do the one God system. That's all you need. But the gods are ready to obey. Yeah, maybe there's other little gods around, but anyways, we'll cut it there and I'm going to start a new stream for the next section.